I say too much more, I think I'll put it on record so that people have a little sense of the introduction. So what we're going to continue to investigate this week, a little more depth, is grief, its necessity, its reality, and how not to add on to grief by clinging, by craving, and more importantly, I think more commonly, at least, I think, is the aversion, the not wanting, the wanting something else. And aversion is understood in these teachings to be a primary cause of our suffering. Not wanting what's here, wanting something else. And they almost always go together. And because of that wanting nature, we talked about this a little bit last week, because of the nature of wanting, what also happens, unfortunately, is that we begin to contract around what otherwise is a continually flowing, ever-changing, light moment of experience, and causing then really ridiculous suffering. And then we blame the circumstance, right? As we talked about, we tend to blame the loss, the change, the misfortune, the problem for the experience. And though it may come with moments of pain, moments of unpleasant, moments of challenge, like how do I hold this too? It is not inherent in the object, in the experience, or in the event. And so we're going to investigate that a little bit more. Since it's a little after 7, I'm going to go ahead now. Carrie, if you would be so helpful. You've been so, I'm grateful always for you. If you would, I'm going to play this song first. It accidentally came to me, as many things do. And I thought, wow, there's a song about what else there is besides just grief. And Gregory Porter is someone we have the privilege of seeing, amazing guy at Balboa Theater just recently, I think probably late 2019. He's amazing. If you don't know him, you're going to love this song. Just stick around. This is going to be our settling in practice. We're just going to move right from this to the practice. I believe I'm recording just to make sure we're all set up. Just want you to listen and see what you see. It may not have any meaning. It just might be a pleasant song, in which case that's all good. But let's listen together to Gregory Porter singing No Love Dying Here.
Bird that flew in through my window simply lost his way. He broke his wing, I helped him heal, and then he flew away. The death of love is everywhere, but I won't let it be. There will be no love dying here for me. There will be no love that's dying here. The mirror that fell from the wall is raggedy, that's all. It rests upon a rusty nail before it made its fall. The bones of love are everywhere, but oh, I won't let it be. There will be no love dying here for me. There will be no love dying here. For flowers in my Asian vase, not a sign of death. I paid for 3, and a sweet old lady gave me 4 instead. And oh, there's some doubt that is out about this love sweet old lady gave me four instead. And whoa, there's some doubt that is out about this love. And whoa, I won't let it be. There will be no love dying here for me. No, no, no. There will be no love dying here. There's trouble all over the land now, but there will be no love dying here. And whoa, there will be no love dying here. Oh, there will be no love dying here. No, 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 no. There will be, just like an old man standing on the top of the hill, declaring to all of the land, there will be, there will be, there will be, no love dying here.
So let's prepare to sit. Yeah, stunning, right? Is that stunning? If you don't like jazz, I don't normally, you can't not like that. That's got a lot of soul in it. And I wanted us to touch something here. So let's see if we can make contact together. Prepare to sit. And just feeling into this body, seeing what has been enlivened in you. Even in the greatest grief, the greatest sadness, in the greatest moments of our struggles in this human life, there is no love dying here. Feel how that vibrates. Feel it in the body. Maybe a quickening heart, an aching heart, a sense of aliveness or energy or tears. Let them be. Feel the feet on the floor, the weight of the body in the seat, the hands clasped. Feel the beating heart of this human life, this precious human life, and the reality that there is a love, there is an awareness, there is a compassion, there is a wisdom, there is a way of being, there is a presence that can hold everything. May we dedicate this practice and set the aspiration that may we ourselves and all others know this, remember this, even in times of challenge, of difficulty, of death, of loss, of aging and illness. May we remember the one permanence that holds it all. We're going to begin by placing our attention in the whole body, just touching into those contact points for a moment, the feet, the knees, the weight of the body in the seat, the hands together, the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulder, the uprightness, the dignity of the head. And then as we breathe, releasing and letting the whole of the front of the body be soft. the forehead, the cheeks, the jaw, the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. Let them be released and soft. Moving down beyond the throat, the shoulders, the arms, the hands. Let them be heavy and weighted, restful. And then coming into the breathscape, feeling what is most alive, most present there. And let's just stay in contact. I'm just going to breathe, for example, right into my heart space. Just holding this whole body like a dark night sky, letting points of light twinkle as sensations arise and pass away. I've just got this space around the heart. I'm just holding my gentle and kind attention there. And as I breathe in, I notice a tightness, a twinge, a little hook, a grip right there in the right upper corner. I'm just resting there, bringing that kind attention. I'm seeing if I can let whatever's true be told, be known. No storylines. I don't have to make anything up. Can I just reside and abide here in this upper right corner of the heart? Maybe for you, it's in the belly, maybe the diaphragm. Stay in the breathscape as best you can. There's lots to tell. Every once in a while, we get really strong feedback from other parts of the body, the shoulders, the jaw, the back of the body. But check in here first. Often it's deflected or radiating. There may be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral experiences here. Remember, they are a flash of light in an empty sky. We're not going to grab them. We're not going to make them more. We're not going to narrate a story about them. We're simply going to allow the experience, let the brilliant firework display happen, and watch it pass away. Watch the tendency of the mind and the hindrances that may appear, a distraction, moving off of this area of the body into sounds, into other sensations, into thoughts or images. And remember, there is no wrong practice. We just, with recognition and a noticing, invite that whole attention back into the body. And then back to the breathscape. Breathing there, making contact there. Sustaining this loving, abiding presence here. And remember, we investigated a little bit last week. It was a part of your inquiry to see what it is that's just beneath the anger, What's just beneath the armoring, the aversion, the pushing away, the not wanting? And it's okay to rest at the doorway. And we need sometimes to knock a few times. So we're not trying to bust in, break through. We're trying to, with gentleness, with kindness, with this abiding presence, we commit ourselves. We bear witness to whatever's arising here and to staying. If everything arises and passes, is born and dies, what is this thing that is undying? In the midst of the crisis, the conflict, the misunderstanding, the separation, there is no love dying here. Can we let the sensations themselves, twinkling lights in the dark night sky, let them be, breathe them in. And then we simply let them pass. There is something larger holding this sensation, holding this ache, this pain, this worry, confusion, annoyance. One breath at a time. Seeing how these sensations change breath by breath, sometimes more intense, sometimes less. Sometimes a whole other part of the body speaks. But this love is big enough, this presence big enough, this heart in its boundless nature big enough to hold it all. Some things just hurt, says Sharon, and this is the truth of our lives. It is not consistent with this practice to push that away, to bury it, to cut it off, to deny it, or to resist. Some things just hurt. But there is enough loving presence. There is enough sky and awareness. There is enough in you to hold it. We begin just like this in the shallow water of ordinary life while being still and silent. We simply practice and train like this, holding this sensation and then this one. We can let sadness be sadness and grief be grief. We allow sorrows to be sorrows. See if we can call something to mind, not the most challenging. And see if we can't just, while holding it in our kind, gentle, and loving attention, feel it down into the way it affects the heart, the mind, and the body. It's important to remain still. The very restlessness or sleepiness, the very distraction or important list making are all part of the hindrances. We're just breathing, knowing that we're breathing, staying in the heart space, in the breathscape as best you can. Bringing that moment to mind. Some things just hurt. Just going to call one up, breathing it in, and holding it lovingly. Continue to soften the body, making space and room. Breathe in fresh air right into the heart space. Feel what's there. Usually some kind of loss or change. And if it feels difficult to call anything up, that's actually somewhat okay. Sometimes the mind heart just wants to create space first, and this can be just fine. Remember, we're not cultivating a storyline. This is how we often get in trouble. The thing we think should have happened is not the point, the way we would have preferred that it go. No. The truth that it hurts. This is enough. Let it be as it is. Staying in that large container, that open space, holding that sky like quality of attention, letting that little twinkle that experience of pain or loss, of grief or sorrow, let it come and be. And watch just as how it alone will also change and end. As we make contact with this unpleasant or painful experience, um, there's something actually also happening. It's activating the heart in another way as well. And that's why I love that song so much. What actually happens is that the heart begins to grow in compassion, in love. It has to grow enough to hold it. And so we let this happen too. We begin to feel for ourselves and often also at some point for the other in this moment of difficulty. And it is, in fact, love itself that holds this wish, the wish for the end of suffering. The wish for resolution, for ease, for happiness and well being. This is the loving heart. This is loving presence. This is compassion, holding us. See if you can get that sense just beneath the not wanted, the unpleasant, the not liked, the thing that hurts, are the loving arms filled with wishes. The wish that this could be worked out, the wish that it wasn't so painful. And we can continue then to offer those wishes. One, by our presence, this is first. You can't stay a distance and throw blessings. Doesn't work. But by feeling exactly how you're feeling, the feelings are real. Can we abide, be present? Show up breath by breath, a most radically loving act. Without judgments, without criticism. We're not contracting the body against, we're in fact, in some interesting way, surrendering into the experience, but there is that crucible of loving presence, always here, this love that never dies, holding us. Though each star will twinkle and eventually die, the sky, this loving, spacious, open sky of awareness always remains. No love is dying here. We can offer ourselves that gentle touch with our own hands, holding ourselves, embracing with that compassion, that kindness. We can offer ourselves those phrases. May I be happy. May I have ease. May I remember my own loving and compassionate presence and make this offering with each breath. We can offer the visual of light, a felt sense of warmth or open space. A big hug. See what invites that sense of that which does not die, that love. That love that has the capacity to grieve and be grown. Not diminished. Continuing to breathe and feel into the body and into the heart space, seeing what's most alive and active here. If you move into moments of neutral, this is not a problem. Actually, it may be a natural oasis or respite, and just use that too. Remember, no experience is continuous. Nothing but loving presence is undying. Everything else, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful, no matter how scary, no matter how angry, it all comes and goes. We can invite the rain practice here for ourselves as well as the loving kindness practice. And so, if offering those wishes, those blessings, that warmth um, is working, is sufficient for you to be able to hold that, continue that. And if using something a little more structural helps, we can remember with these hands right here in that tender heart, remember that this is a moment of difficulty. It's a part of the human experience and cannot be avoided, cannot be escaped. This pain, this loss, this grief, this sorrow of being alive. This is not broken. You are not deficient. This is this human life. And breathing in then with acceptance, allowing, letting the ache come and rise and change and pass. Seeing if we can simply be here with ourselves, offering that loving, undying presence. With each breath, we are being awakened. With each breath, transformed and growing stronger, more courageous, more patient, more loving, more kind by the very capacity to stay. And as it happens naturally, eventually the thing you've called to mind, it may stay active and vital, in which case continue, or it may change into another experience. Usually for me, if I'm being completely mindful and present, it will actually deepen. I'll notice another moment that even has maybe a slightly larger pain in it. And I'll just rest and be and breathe and open, remembering that love, the love that doesn't die, the compassion that is always present. Offering that. May I feel for myself and all those just like me who know this pain, this grief, this loss too. Staying in contact. Isn't it amazing that as the heart becomes most tender, that is when it is also most malleable, most expandable, and can most easily grow bigger? Wow. And then calling to mind one other while we're in this heart expanding practice, extending loving presence, compassion to someone else who you know who is also in suffering, in pain, in loss, in change. Call them to mind. Extend this loving presence, this warm embrace, this ever growing heart, extend it to them. May you have ease. May you be free from inner and outer affliction. May you remember the boundless heart in you and in others, holding you now. That radiant light, that warmth, that open space. Let it move throughout the whole body now beyond the heart space. Tenderizing the whole body. You can place your hands down if that feels right for you whenever you're ready or not. And we're just going to rest in that radiant heart space for a few moments, that undying love. that compassion for our own difficulties, our own pain, and the pain of others. We continue to breathe in, touch in, and let be. May we all be well. May we all be safe. May we all have ease. May we remember this love that never dies. And may this practice contribute No love is dying here. So, yeah, checking in, just seeing how we are, taking a moment. Remember, always trying to untie the knots, taking a loving moment to offer that. Uh, Okay, there we go. So take a moment, reflect on the practice, and let me know. Write into chat or come online. What is it you know about pain, grief, loss, and that which holds it?
It's Victor. It's good to take a step back and look at it. It's then not as big. The
Then not
conflict,
as big.
you know.
That's right. Yeah. Did you feel that, Victor, for yourself?
Yes, to
Yeah,
hold it
like,
and not to swim inside of it, you know.
yes, not to contract so that it becomes the container in which we're drowning, right? But actually to grow into awareness, so ourselves, so that whatever it is, right, however painful, difficult, big it feels, there is actually a crucible container of loving presence that can actually hold us. And we know this. We know it, don't we? You know this moment. You went, wow, right when I would have normally just fallen apart. I was like, no, I've just got to be here. I've got to stay present. I've got to breathe. I've got to invite the whole mind body to this, often in suffering of others or our own grief or suffering. This is the practice and where our big work is. And then I hope we can see, as Victor said, it's pretty workable. I didn't say pleasant, did I? I didn't say
Yeah,
it was pleasant. Yeah,
but you don't have to say I'm tired, and just you don't need to.
that's right. You don't have to drown in it. Yes, you don't have to get caught in the whirlpool. We actually understand those whirlpools, by the way, that sense of being pulled under as being a type of a vortex that is caused by the hindrances themselves, caused by the resistance, caused by the refusal, caused by the not wanting, caused by the restlessness, caused by the seeking distraction and seeking entertainment itself. These are the causes of the stuck energy, of the whirlpooling energy, not grief itself. No, grief is ever changing, ever moving, ever flowing, ever shifting. I asked you to get in the body, a little twinkle here, a big pain there, an ouch over here, a ugh over, right? But we just allow that flow because we are what? That which holds it. We are not the ever changing river. In fact, this body is, there is more. There is that which abides, that which resides, that dwelling within of that uh, quality. For some people, divine source, right? You call that whatever you call that. God for you, loving presence for you, awareness itself, says the mindfulness traditions, right? Your name is yours. I want you to know you are capable of this, even, even in grief. I see something here from Felicia. Let me go to that. It was very helpful to feel compassion instead of rage or pain. Oh, for sure, Felicia, for the one who hurt me, and remembering that he can't feel love. Yes, that's right. Due to his own contraction, his own shutdown, his own fears, most often, his own pain or hers, right? It's no different for any of us. Can we acknowledge this is not because I am not lovable, not because it doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. I've made a million, made a couple recently, but can I hold myself in it? And then recognizing, well, wow, if my unskillfulness came out of pain, came out of fear, came maybe the other person's unskillfulness, hostility, aggression, also came out of that. And in fact, that's what we discover. Just like me, just like me. Same thing that shuts me down, the same thing that causes contraction in me, the same thing that causes and invites aggression in me is that which does it in others. Yes, it's exactly true. Like an avalanche, a wave can be swallowed up, but to surface again, that's right. Doesn't mean we don't go in for a tumble, but we're being held by something larger than the wave. We are not only that. I found that the resistance to the grief, yes, the fear of holding it is what has caused so much suffering, for sure. That avoidance rather than being with it built the grief into something larger. Yeah, it becomes a hurricane, doesn't it? It becomes a morass that we believe we cannot swim out of. Thank you so much, Courtney, for that. It's exactly true. It's what many of us do with grief in particular, because grief is not pleasant. And we have no permission to do it. We're supposed to be at work. We're supposed to be doing the dish. We're supposed to be planting the garden, whatever we're doing. And grief really, it's not its nature. It doesn't tolerate distractions well because it's so consuming. And so what we often have to do, we do it very habitually. We cut off grief, get that out of the way, because I still got to work. I still got to pay the bills. I've got to blah, 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 blah. And of course, what do? We make a boogeyman out of everything that we reject, don't we? We make a monster, and now it's chasing us, and it gets us at night. I've talked about this, and then I'd like to go look at the chapter. Thank you all for those essential, very important comments. I was really screaming, waking up screaming for at least 2 years from this feeling that I was dying. It was a mid phase of my practice life. And I was going to every teacher I could find, every single retreat. I'd ask the same question. How do I get rid of this? How do I deal with this? How do I, and every single person said the same thing. I just didn't like the answer. You might try just being with it. I was like, yeah, no, that would not be my model. Sorry, nice idea for somebody. No, I'm warrior enough, strong enough, blah, 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 blah. What I storyline enough, I can fight through this. No, the ego was fighting. And ultimately, it cannot win. It cannot win. It doesn't have to be pleasant. It isn't always going to be, but it does have to be attended to. It has to be greeted. It ultimately has to be metabolized. We have to let it in and let it be in order to make it workable, holdable. And then what? I said the tenderized heart. It is the aching heart, I think, that actually is the one that grows. Not the got it all together. Not the got it all together one at all. And so as I finally softened and surrendered, really just like, okay, I'm going to be, one of these is going to kill me eventually. All right, this is just what it is. I can't seem to get rid of it. And of course, the more I was able to be with and just let the anxiety be the anxiety, let the dread be the dread, let the grief be the grief, I began to see that something didn't die. Something else didn't die, even though I was sure I would. And that, of course, was a big transformative turning point for me in my practice, and has remained and only grown since. Right, so we know that this is possible. Check it in. Yes, we all play our part, Felicia, don't we? Can we be forgiving, loving, and compassionate even for the pain that we were in that also contributed to that? Yes, we are not always skillful ourselves, it's true, but compassion holds us as well as the other. Compassion forgives ourselves as well. Compassion recognizes the source of that unskillfulness as pain, as angst, as fear, as distress. And without acknowledgement, without then a response to our own suffering, we cannot resolve that ultimately. And with it, we can learn to be more skillful. And I love that. How do I hold myself first? Really in these moments? What do I need to offer myself in these moments so that I do not cause harm, that I do not act out, that I do not go flying off, and then can really be exactly where I need to be, which is guess where? Not out there dealing with it, right here, attending my own tender heart. And that's what I'm planning to do as often as I can, rather than vault ridiculous amounts of energy outward, as if I could be agent over the other, as if I could change anything for them, as if I could only something, which is never true, but I can offer that to myself. I can. Let me see if there's anything else. For me, it always feels more healthy to get sucked into the vortex briefly, cry, and then surface with much more calm and equanimity. Interestingly, Shivam, that's not the vortex. That's just life. You're not being sucked under. You're just experiencing. That's just it. There's no hole there. That's just life in its ever passing reality, called pain like this, hurting like this. The vortex always comes with a storyline. That's just plain old pain. Yeah, forget it. Don't try to get rid of that one. You cry, you wail, you beat the wall. This is just pain. Just let it be. Let it be. Watch it. Whew. Ever changing. The vortex comes with something else. The contracted mind, the contracted heart. If only. Why not? How come? You shouldn't. They didn't. How? Get rid of it. Why is it me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Wait a minute. Right. Yeah. Can you feel that broken record? I got a couple fabulous tunes I could play for you, right? How? Not fair. Shouldn't be happening to me. I'm a meditation teacher. I've done all this hard work. How come I'm still? No, that's just pain. Yeah, let it be. And then can't we call it just pain, sorrow, grief, sadness, distress? Let it be. There's enough of you here, truly, to hold it. I promise there's enough of you here. And also it's a training and a practice, right? So we don't jump, we don't dive into the deep end first. We work with the pains of everyday life. The partner that didn't, the job that's not, right? Here we are. The person that doesn't show up. Okay. Right? We be with that. We just recognize anger, which was our practice in this last week, is the cover. Anger is just the cover for that tender heart. Sometimes, as Sharon said in that chapter, necessary and important to energize for what? Change. Maybe healthy boundary. Maybe a change. I'm not going to do it that way anymore. That's not been good for me. That's not consistent with my own health and well-being. And of course, consequently, interestingly, not the others either. Just so you know, if it's not good for you, I promise you something, it's not good for the other. Even if they say it is, it's not actually right. They're just caught in an addictive pattern that they really don't want to give up yet. Doesn't mean it's good. Doesn't mean it's right. If it's not good for you, it cannot be right or good for the relationship either. With all that is going on currently in my little world, I came home from work and decided I would give myself the next few days off. Yes, wonderful. To cry, sleep, rest instead of barreling and pushing away. Good for you, Tanya. My fear, helplessness, and sadness. That's a beautiful gift. Good for you. That's the work. That's the practice. The barreling through, that's a habit. That's a coping mechanism. That's a defense structure. And by the way, it never holds up. It eventually cracks as it needs to and will. Good news, because then we can get to the heart of the matter. Love is greater than those angry stories. Yes, it was. Thank you. I'm going to read this. Having a fight with someone close to me recently, I realized when I took a break that we were fighting over two stories about the past future that were probably both constructs. For sure they were. It suddenly seemed extremely silly, especially as neither of us has any real control over outcomes, to just go on and try to persuade each other that my story was correct. That's right. And in fact, when we give up our stories or just acknowledge them as my perspective, guess what we have room for? The other's perspective. Like, yeah, okay. It was like this for me. Bow to that. It was like this for you. Bow to that. We can hold both because what? We are not contracting around the me. We're not contracting around the right. We're not contracting, right? Around it's got to be my way. I really have no interest anymore. I'm getting better and better at this. It's like, okay, that's your experience. I can hold that as your experience too. Of course I can. The minute I don't hold mine as the only one, the right one, right? The capital T way, now there's room. And then of course we laugh, don't we? Yeah, like, wow. Thank you. I find that contemplating the underlying stories or hindrances that keep me from abiding with the grief of change, such as fear of change or wanting to control or fix it, helps me to be able to just abide. Yes, it does, lovingly. Then I can use breathing, meditation, gentle movements, right? They're all available to us. They all work, but not first. We first have to create a space and a knowing. Wait a minute, where is the suffering? It's not in the grief. It's not in the sadness, not in the sorrow, though it is certainly unpleasant and painful. Some things just hurt, Sharon says. It is in all of the energy that we use to navigate away from an essential truth. All that energy. And by the way, there is no power big enough to keep it away. This is the truth of our human life. We could learn by not resisting quite so much. That's a little bit helpful. And so thank you, everyone. I want to go to the chapter. I hope you can see it. I have a feeling you can't. So let me try this. Let's see if you can capture it now. Can people see that? Okay, this is chapter 4, grief. Now remember, we're not trying to make grief simple or easy. Grief can be complicated, difficult. It is ultimately transformative, I have to say, is my experience with all grief. I have grown with every loss, with every moment of grief. And the more I have been able to allow, the more I've been able to open, the more I've been able to acknowledge, the more I've been able to rest in the truth of the pain, as Shivam was saying. The truth was, the more transformed its invitation and it allowed. So let's look at grief to resilience quickly. If you see a page where there was a particular something in it for you, would you chat that to me? I want to use those today. So let me know if you see something. I saw, of course, that beautiful anthem that we're going to be using this week, Some Things Just Hurt. One of our practices this week is simply to bow to this moment of difficulty, this moment of sorrow, this moment of grief, often having to have moved beneath these moments of resistance, this moment of anger or aggression. This wouldn't be here if not for that, them, it. We're going to climb beneath anger this week to recognize and acknowledge some things just hurt. We're actually just going to breathe there. By simply living a life, there will be times of adversity and certainly disruption. There is nothing broken or wrong with you. This is the truth of life. It is the first noble truth and one that we want to hold and remember together. There's no way out of this. It's just the truth of how things will be. Suffering, let's see what it says here. Yes, collective suffering will also impact us, is what she's saying here. We can be sometimes unwilling participants to suffering, and we have to be able to acknowledge that that also causes us grief, us pain, us distress. And sometimes we call that secondary trauma because the being witness to a moment of suffering can be so distressing. I think about Renee and Carrie and those who've done hospice work, right? That we have to also acknowledge the truth that being a part of a grief-stricken moment, a loss moment, a moment of illness, also has its impact on us, and to really be honoring of that and to take good care of ourselves. It says we don't need extra suffering, and therein lies our work, which is how not to carry that around with us and also be pushing it away. This is often the case with burnout and compassion fatigue, of course, profoundly present currently in our healthcare workers, depressions, because they are trying to just keep going. It's just not possible, not in this life fully. We need breaks, we need time, we need friends, we need to get out in nature, right, in order to really hold it in its wholeness. Otherwise, it just looks like pain and suffering, and then more pain and suffering. And it's not the way. It's very difficult right now for healthcare workers, isn't it, to get what they need, because they need the break, and it's almost impossible to get. So again, our job these last few weeks has been to try to create moments of respite with healthy food, just taking a moment to eat some good food. Some of us may feel that the cultivation of compassion should be a practice that elevates us beyond feelings. And this is also a critical point, because we often think, well, if I feel compassion, that'll be the fix. Except, what did I say in the practice? Not only is it not the fix first, we have to feel the suffering first in order to be malleable enough, tenderized enough, if you could imagine that, to begin to open into compassion. So don't keep trying to get around it. It won't work. There's no paste on anything. You cannot graft on compassion, love, patience. It's not possible. And if you're acting it, you will notice how it doesn't hold you up, including the recognition of those things that just hurt. There she goes. I'm going to look at chat here. We've got a lot to say. I love that. Yes, of course you're suffering when your son suffers. That is a part of the tenderized heart. And we have to let that be feeling both for ourselves and for the son, because remember, it's exchanging oneself for the other. There is no difference. We can't tolerate watching, can we, that commercial with abused dogs, right? You just want to turn away. It's like, wait a minute, this is just too painful. And in fact, it is the capacity to still the self, become more spacious, that we can open to include it, not as the only thing, but as another part of the truth. And then we can be activated. Compassion has by its nature an energizing, responding effect. It is not passive. It doesn't just go, oh dear, oh my. It says, wait a minute, I've got to do this differently. And that's part of its beauty. Suffering when my dear friend will probably die. I'm sorry to hear this, Leslie, and also being in the pain of that. That's right. Part of the cultivation of compassion is simple recognition of those things. That's right. Some things just hurt. Part of the cultivation of compassion, yes, everybody grab that line. It's so true, isn't it? We don't have to deny the pain of life. This is not the path and not the way. Some things just hurt. And to the extent that we can stabilize the mind, let go of the storylines that somehow, if only I'd gotten it right, or if only life were fair, or if only the other were better, I wouldn't have to feel this. It's just not true. It's a part of the essential storyline. Recognition is an essential component of mindfulness and necessary. The dark night of the soul, this is actually talking about a point in our practice where we come up against it, where we go, all my strategies, all my attempts to get away, all my escape, ladders. They're just not working. And we come up in mid-phase practice up against this thing called the dark night of the soul, where we really eventually simply surrender the ego. We just surrender because nothing's working. We can't get out of, avoid, push off, cut off any longer. And that dark night of the soul, by the way, is an essential part of the path. It cannot be avoided. It can be stimulated by deep losses. It can be stimulated by difficult moments. It can be stimulated by a series of challenges. This, and this happened. Again, this is not life in its cruelty. It's just life in its unfolding. And in fact, often some of the deepest, greatest transformations, Eckhart Tolle is one, where he said, finally, I just surrendered into the larger container, that love that never dies. I finally just fell in because the way I was doing it just wasn't working. I think I see another comment. Yes. So she gives examples here of people with PTSD, others who have experienced profound grief or loss. Grief is praise because it is the natural way love honors what is missing. I loved that line. I can't believe that it didn't get highlighted because it actually was one of my favorite on this page. I'm glad I found it because it is the natural way. What about that idea? It's unavoidable. The natural way love honors what is changing, what is lost, what is missing, what is no longer a part in its familiar, known, often preferred way. But love, that love that never dies, is always available. But we can't use it to ride over grief. It is in the grief itself, really in the well of grief, as David Whyte said, that we can find those golden coins that others threw away. Greater love, greater compassion, greater equanimity and strength in the face of the storm of this human life. What happens if we recognize the love inside the grief? I would say holding even the grief. Remember that gigantic container as wide and boundless as the sky, in which all things are held, including grief. Grief is also a way to honor what we are losing. Yes, we just spoke to that. Anything here? The need for resilience. That would not be my language. The need for resilience implies like something we are deficient in if we don't get it. Here's what I know to be true. Didn't you notice it in our own practice that we cultivate resilience as we turn towards that which is difficult, challenging, unpleasant, and we get like a muscle strengthening. We get to do it at our own pace in our own way. That grief grows something in us. There's no doubt about it. But the need for resilience is not what I would say. I would say resilience is the result, however, of opening to that which is challenging, unpleasant, unwanted. That is for sure. The fights we need to fight are long and we have to sustain our capacity. She's talking here about really, rather than investing all of our energy against something, really that anger work, that work against, what they see, of course, in social activism and in all change agentry is that this is requires sustained energies, sustained capacities. There is no one act that changes anything. When we look at the social justice system, when we look at racial equality, have we not seen that it is not a straight line? It is not just, well, there was Rosa Parks and there was the 15-year-old before her. who was not quite the best candidate for presenting to the world because she was 15 and quite smarmy. I loved that about her. I forgot her name, Colvin, I think it was. 15-year-old started that by going, I have rights. Well, that wasn't going to sell, was it, at that time? And so Rosa Parks, and then segregation and the breaking of segregation, and look where we are, still in the work, still needing to sustain this concepts of equality and justice, and continue, and it will need to continue. So that's the point. If we're pushing away all the time, we will be exhausted from that very act. By the way, there is no space, room for then bringing that energy out into the world to affect positive change. That's the point, is we're rejecting, as we're, the truth is, who's got energy for anything else? The answer is no one. It will deplete you, deflate you, and cause burnout. When we get overwhelmed in our own feelings of loss, grief, or pain, we become rigid, yes, contracted. We demand, if not perfection, that it be a certain way. We don't honor the fact that we maybe can take only one step at a time. This is that sustaining capacity. One small step, breathe, stand still, pause, let the earth and the body speak to you, and then take another. We do not live this way, and it causes, of course, challenges for us all. We're into the press every day. What has happened, says the Dalai Lama. It happened. Hearing that, I felt a sense of relief, like something awry had just clicked into place. Yes, we are already here with this. How do we now hold it open-heartedly so that we can learn how to respond? That's exactly right. There was another lovely story by the Dalai Lama. I'll tell it here because I think it's so worthy of our understanding. Someone said, I don't feel my feelings because I don't feel worthy of them. I don't, my self-worth, my own perception of self. And the Dalai Lama said, oh, with a wrinkled face, like, though the feelings are real, this is not true. They are wrong. You, by virtue of this human life, are deserving. By virtue of this gifted human life, you are deserving of all experience, of all feelings of love. And he took a very strong position and said more than once, and you are wrong. Though the feelings are real, this is not true. And this is something we all need to practice with. Can we let the feelings be real? Turn towards them, open to them, but not believe the storylines that this means we are deficient, broken, or damaged in some essential way. It is not true by virtue of your inherent human existence. When we are in the darkest night of our soul, grieving for the person and the life we seem to have lost, this is an important word, seem. At that point, we need to acknowledge what is, not how we would prefer it to be, how we would settle, how we would like it. If onlys, we bring a lot of that. This wouldn't have happened that way. And it's natural to do because we all are looking for a way out of the distress. But as the Dalai Lama said, what has happened has happened. We are no longer able to get out with the storyline, if only something else. We are where we are now. Can we open and hold that? You're thinking it's all your fault and you need to be able to deal with this on your own. These are some of the mistaken believed thoughts about our practice even. There's the what has happened. Yes. Let me go forward. Building resilience, that again is, I think, what comes naturally. This acknowledgement of the need to truly touch our sadness, pain, and loss is where real change, transformation is the word I used, is born, where we begin to build resilience. You might say then the capacity to hold everything. That's resilience, isn't it? The capacity that we each have and that can be cultivated within us, one breath, one step at a time, to hold everything. Resilience is something that accretes over time. This is that slow, sustainable build as we develop a habit of courageously turning towards, responding to, or being with pain without freaking out. By the way, I think we freak out. I don't even know if what it first means is that you don't freak out. I think you can hold that too. I call that the wailing at the wall. Sometimes we beat our chests. Sometimes we beat the wall. Sometimes we scream. I'm not sure these are the wrong things. I think this is just energy in its expression. And remember, I think there's enough space and room in this world and in our lives and in our own hearts for this. So can't we hold ourselves and each other in this? Yes, we can. Are we going to feel for them? Of course we are. Are we going to wish for the end of that suffering? For sure. But that doesn't mean what's here is not here. And so we can hold this too, right? We can. It too is not permanent. Whatever that freak out looks like, whatever that, it's not. The storyline might be something we spin around for a while. The storyline that if only it wouldn't be this way. Just make sure that's not feeding your freak out, because freakouts will come and they will go, just like everything else, if we just let them be. In working to make change in the world, there'll always be setbacks, just as there are on the practice, by the way. It's not a straight line up and out. Sometimes we go, wow, look at how impressive I was. I really handled that. The very next day, you're crying over the fact that nobody had the muffins you like. These are all related in their way. Can we open once again in that moment to the truth that there is distress here, that there is upset, that there is a breaking heart, an achy heart, and just simply allow it first to be. And then we can see, often for me, when I get distressed over small things, I know that there's a larger thing beneath it. And I bow to that, going, okay, there's something else I have to stay with. There's something else I have to check in with. I have to give myself room and space and care so that I can really begin to see with wisdom and discernment what else is happening. And often, again, we will not give ourselves enough time, creating some difficulty for ourselves there. We need to bounce back. Yeah, that's the myth, isn't it, Dennis? Just get back in there. I think this is just some recounting of suffering may bring some of us to that place of courage and truth, for sure, but so too might a profound connection to another or to life itself. When we aren't so lost in the grasping and craving and mindless consumerism and aimless competition that conventional society invites, we can step away from the dictates of the ordinary to see and express the reality in a fresh way. This is the truth. We will be asked, as Dennis just wrote, get it together, get your boots on, keep it going. These are part of the myths of our culture, and we can be sucked in and under by them, believing in some way that we are deficient, wrong, or broken if we can't sustain that. We were never supposed to, is the truth. As a society, we're phobic about looking at pain, isn't it true? And that if we get it right, we will only have pleasantness and happiness, however superficial it is. However good the cake you eat, there's only so many days you can eat cake. It's just not the whole truth of our life. Through practices like generosity and loving kindness, which lift your spirits, you can come to look at pain without being overcome by it. You're not destroyed by pain. It's never true. And yes, some things just hurt. That is true. One ingredient is a transformed relationship to pain, is to have enough light to surround the darkness, enough space in which to hold the ever-changing wave. Openness big enough to hold the pain and not collapse into it. One of the metaphors that's used is like having a thimble and putting a teaspoon of salt in it and realizing that the salt will overcome the thimble of water, that it will literally just be salt. And that if you were to take that same teaspoon of salt and to put it into a fresh lake, for example, 1 teaspoon, it would hold it, absorb it, integrate it without disruption, right? Without disruption, changing it maybe in some way, but not in a disruptive way. And that's the same way we can expand, open the heart mind to include and hold. I never knew you could take a truly terrible thing and make it even worse. Oh, yes, we can, by spinning it around in what? Anger, aggression, resistance, self-pity, the belief thought that this shouldn't be happening or it shouldn't be happening to me. Instead, with those storylines, we make it worse. I'm only going to read one more. Accepting suffering doesn't mean it will disappear. Critical point. Instead, we can learn to feel discomfort in a far purer and more direct way without the additional burdens of the storylines of feeling humiliated, wrong, deficient, or broken by it. Those critical add-ons are the cause of the suffering, as we've said, and then it goes on to talk about addressing some of the other questions. I'm going to end it there. We are on page, let's see, asking hard questions, getting to the root. I'm going to stop this for now. Okay, so what's our work this week? Our work is actually the on-the-spot and the direct practice of turning towards knowing a moment of reaction, but we're not going to get stuck there. The anger was there, the resistance was there, the wanting it some other way was there, all fine. We're going to actually take a moment, get beneath, and see if we can make contact with some things just hurt, one of our anthems, some things just hurt, acknowledging, getting the hands on the heart, some things just hurt. This is a moment of suffering. It is a part of the human experience. It cannot be escaped. Can I open to this? While then remembering with the breath, no love dies here. Can we remember and open into the truth? No love ever dies. Even when we're in pain, even when we have grief, can we make contact with that heart mind, the one that holds everything? Breathe into it, cultivate it, let what's there through. As Victor said, it comes in its wave, right? It may even feel like it knocks us over. That's okay. It's just transforming you. It's just transforming you. It is just opening you to a new way of standing, to a new way of being. Not the old way, not the static, fixed, and stuck way. This is not the way we can live. So that's going to be our practice. Thank you so much. Next week, we're going to shift to week, I think it's chapter 6. I've forgotten the title of that at the moment because I'm hearing connecting to grief, and it's the holding power of love and compassion. So let's just take a moment here, breathing together. No love dies here. As we arrive to the present moment, we that truth, we invite that openness, that softening, the receptivity, as we turn towards the truth that some things just hurt. And as we breathe in, see if we can hold both. This isn't an either or. May we offer this practice today to the end of the add-ons, to the end of the storylines, to the end of the resistance, the struggle. And when we're not ready to let it end, let's see if we can greet it with compassion. Can we feel for ourselves in this moment of suffering? Without judgment, without criticism. Let it be. We soften this Buddha body, letting all experience inform us. We bring clarity, discernment, wisdom with this Buddha mind as we turn towards the truth of this human life. And we open this boundless, vast, ever-expanding Buddha heart. This love that never dies, this compassion that is always available. We simply have to create what? A moment of pause, a moment of stillness, and then make contact. May we all be happy. May we all be free from pain and suffering. May we all have ease of being. And we all remember to pause, to rest back, and to open into that love that never dies, into that loving presence, into that vast and boundless space that holds everything. And may this practice today contribute that this be so. So be it. Seeing if we can make contact in a moment of reality is often how I, at a moment of tension, can I wash myself with this loving presence, holding myself for a moment in compassion and kindness and genuine care, letting what's true be true. Some things just hurt, and it's okay. We can do this together, I promise. We are capable of this. It's good to see you all. I look forward to seeing you Thursday with Greg at 7 a.m. If you can make that, that would be wonderful. Those are beautiful practices. And if not, on Saturday, we are going to be investigating then the exquisite risk of being awake. What does it mean to bring this wakefulness to this present life? The exquisite risk of turning towards the truth of the present moment. Am I sending emails to go along with this study? I am not. I am placing them on, Leslie is putting them up on the website, encinitasmindfulness.org at Real Change. So you would be seeing those there. Please go there to look. There'll be notes, there'll be instructions for the week, and the video for today's class will be there. So head over there to take a look. Yes, I will, Leslie, I've gotcha. Yes. You're so welcome, everyone. Blessings. Much love. Thank you to you all. May we continue this practice together. I'll look forward to seeing you sometime later this week, hopefully for the exquisite risk of being awake. Don't want to miss that, right? Be well, everyone. Good to see you. Take care.